To Congresswoman from the 7th District of Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn. Congressman, great to have you back on the John Fredericks Show. It's been way too long.
It is so good to be with you. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. The Republicans have unveiled a budget. President Obama blasted it. He says you don't care about working people. You're not giving everybody their fair share, whatever that means. What is the main differences between your budget and Obama's complaints?
Well, the main difference is simply this. And number one, our budget would save $5.5 trillion. And I don't think he's for that. The second thing, our budget would balance within 9 years. And his budget would never balance. So those are the main two things. He always wants to spend more. It doesn't matter to him if a budget ever balances or not. And what we're trying to do is get us back to fiscal health and on the path to a sustainable economy, something that is going to protect our sovereignty and our freedom for generations to come.
So what exactly, when you say there's going to be a balanced budget over a 9-year period, Congresswoman Blackburn, is that real or is that based on estimates and revenue coming in? Because when Paul Ryan put this out in the last cycle, a lot of conservatives criticized it and said, you know, the numbers don't ever really get there. The budget never really balances. How is it real now?
Well, because it does come into balance. Our annual budget would come into balance in that window, in that 9-year period of time. And then what you do is move to paying down the debt. And where you get into a difference, some people will say, well, the total accrued debts and liabilities, when you bring into account all the liabilities that are there for the future, for Social Security, the estimations of the growth of Medicaid, that doesn't come into balance. The difference is what we do is to begin the process of entitlement reform. Mm-hmm. We balance in real dollars, and then we're able to turn the attention to getting those other components balanced and under control. So, yes, the annual budget would come into balance in 9 years.
So what would, according to your budget, Congresswoman Blackburn, if it was adopted, the deficit now is just approaching $18 trillion. So let's fast forward ahead. It's 2024. What would the national debt be under the budget plan that you all have proposed?
What I would like to see is it be no more than what it is. And the sooner we get going on entitlement reform, the better chance we have of making that happen. The estimates from the Congressional Budget Office are that the debt could go as high as, I think it is $22 trillion would be at the high. But we've got to start to turn this around and reduce the outlays, bring those outlays into balance. And, you know, one of the things that we have found, and I've had legislation every year that calls for a 1% across-the-board spending cut. Now, what we have found is that just as you have compound interest, you have compound savings. And the sooner you're moving on this and beginning to make those cuts into the baseline, the faster you're going to see those savings grow and those outlays reduced. And here's another thing that we've put in this budget. And I'm sure you and your listeners have followed what happens with zero-based budgeting as opposed to baseline budgeting. And the federal government and our budget runs off of baseline budgeting. Mm-hmm. Well, that's where a department or an agency got $100 this year, so next year they're going to ask for $120. And if you don't give it to them, then they say, well, you've cut me. And if you give them just $100 they had this year, they call that a cut.
Right.
Because they start with their request from where they are right now, rather than going back to zero like you and I do when we build out our budget and asking, beginning with the first dollar. So we are going to have in our report language that we support and promote their moving to zero-based budgeting. Then when we come back and do a rewrite of the 74 budget law, we're going to take away that ability for them to do baseline budgeting and require them to do a zero-based budget. That will be vitally important because it will force the agencies to have to prove what they need before they get it. And they don't get money just because they got money the year before.
So, Congresswoman, we've been trying to get zero-based budgeting forever. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, fortunately, for you. I go back to 1976, Jimmy Carter running for president. One of his platforms was zero-based budgeting. Everybody's trying to figure out what that was. Made a lot of sense. He didn't implement it. Nobody implemented it. Why?
Well, they have chosen not to because they say, well, it's so much work. Well, in my opinion, the American taxpayer is who's footing the bill on this. They exercise zero-based budgeting, and if it's good enough to be placed on the taxpayer, then for sure it is good enough for the federal agencies to use. And it is a standard business practice in most companies, so it should be a standard business practice. Now, this is the first time we're going to have this in the budget, in the report language, and it's the first time since 74 with the budget rewrite we have the opportunity to make it. It's a substantial change. And I didn't agree with Jimmy Carter on much, but I will tell you this, I do agree that zero-based budgeting is the way to go, and it will save us some money. So that's going to be a big change for us. Another thing we're doing is to basically freeze the federal workforce, and we are looking for a 10% reduction over the next 10 years. And people cannot hire someone unless, it works out, the formula works out for every 3 that you let go, you can hire 1 replacement. And by doing that over the next 10 years, we will see a 10% reduction in the federal workforce. So it gets us a little bit beyond what you would expect from normal attrition.
Congresswoman, it really looks like the Republicans in the House have come up with a plan. I mean, at least it's a plan. You know, all of us would like to see this debt and deficit go down quicker, but it is what it is. You've got to balance the budget right before you can start to cut into the debt. So the question is, what's going to happen in the U.S. Senate, and how is this going to get reconciled?
Well, it will go to the Senate once we pass it, and then the reconciliation process will get going when the House and the Senate meet to work out their differences. We know we're going to be more aggressive than the Senate is going to be. The Senate, however, has expressed that they would like to have a budget in balance in 10 years. So the good thing is we might not have them all the way that we need them, but the Senate is at least saying, yes, we need to have a budget that comes into balance, and let's do it in a 10-year period of time. In my opinion, that's a pretty good move for the Senate. We haven't even been able to get the Harry Reid-led Senate to come up with a plan. So, a step at a time, we've got to turn this around. Let's make certain we're moving the right direction and not the wrong direction on this.
Right. We're certainly, with your budget, better off than we are now, no question. Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn, 7th District, Tennessee. Congresswoman, we talk about entitlement reform. Whenever you say that, obviously people say, well, what exact entitlements are we going to reform and how are we going to do that? Share some of your ideas on what that might look like.
I think when you talk about entitlement reform, first things need to be stabilization of the trust funds, Medicare and Social Security, because those are not entitlements. Those are trust funds. People have earned that money, and they have put it into those funds. Second thing for Medicaid, and which is the largest of the benefits, block granting this back to the states so that there is a definition on what our outlays are going to be. That is a great first step, and that is a way that we can put that marker down there, that cap, and say, okay, this is what our expense is going to be. The states can do a much better job of utilizing that. Then you need to look at the fact that our benefits, when you get into the benefits that we have, food stamps, things of that nature, waste, fraud, and abuse. There are billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse in the implementation of these programs. And so what we will do is look at those and cull out that waste, fraud, and abuse. We have reams of paper in our Inspector General reports where they have found the waste, fraud, and abuse, and it's time for us to go get it and pull it out and then charge that back to the agencies that have misspent these funds.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, in order to do that, you're going to have a Republican House, Republican Senate, Republican President. Let me get to that. Any particular candidate that's announced for president that you could see yourself backing, or are you going to kind of wait and see what happens, Congresswoman?
I generally wait. I'm an old county Republican Party chairman, and I do a pretty good job of staying out of the melee with the primary and supporting whomever we nominate. We have a very deep bench. And Ted Cruz got out there yesterday with his announcement. You've got Rand Paul, who's going to announce in the next few days. Donald Trump is setting up his exploratory. So everybody is beginning to get into gear, if you will, on this. We have a very deep bench, and the Democrats have Hillary. And so I think it's going to be a very exciting cycle for Republicans. And regardless of who our nominee is, we're going to see a feisty process.
I think you will. Are you ever going to get Hillary Clinton's emails?
Oh, yes.
I like that answer.
Yeah, I think we will. Trey Gowdy has asked for that server, and I think he'll get it. This is something where she is clearly outside of the law. And one of the questions will be, what was her level of, where does knowingly and willfully being outside of the law come? And yeah, I think he'll get it.
All right, I think you're going to get those emails also. I want to thank you. It's always an honor to have you on, Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn, 7th District of Tennessee. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.